host, Tyler Carter.
And I'm your host, Cody Vanciolo.
Cody, we are going to talk about last night's Game 3 reaction. What are your thoughts about the game? I wasn't able to watch, so I want to hear your perspective about the game.
Um, yeah, I think definitely obviously Indiana pulled out all the stops, not just in the game, but who they brought out because they brought out a lot of celebrities for what was Indiana's first NBA Finals game in 25 years. So we saw
Right.
a lot of pomp circumstance for the Indiana Pacers, and then on the court, this was definitely a back and forth game. And Indiana, they got balanced. And also, it's another case of somebody stepping up and beating you in multiple ways. Indiana's bench has been talked about as a really good bench throughout the playoffs, and you see it again with Benedict Mathurin putting up 27 points off the bench, and then T.J. McConnell putting in 5 steals off the bench for Indiana as well, and that just shows that just was a part of the team ball that was played by the Indiana Pacers to win Game 3, 116 to 107. Take a look at the box score for Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton with another double-double and almost a triple-double at that. 22 points, 11 assists, and 1 rebound short of a triple-double. So Tyrese Halliburton once again distributing the ball and getting the ball to to the right guys in the right spots, and they're getting buckets. And guys like obviously Mathurin were able to capitalize off of that, but you also had Pascal Siakam capitalize on that with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. And it was just this was just a back and forth game going into it, but the fourth quarter was huge for Indiana. And the second quarter as well. The end of halves for Indiana in this game, both the first and the second half, really was the difference because this was this was a toss-up game back and forth. Nobody really got up big. The biggest lead for either team was 9 points, but Indiana were able to get some defensive stops late in the game and were ultimately able to get the win. And they were able to grind it out. They were grinding out these wins because this is where Indiana thrives in the postseason. When you have these games that go late, you're deep, you're mostly gas, and Indiana just has that other gear that they could just tap into, and that gets them over the finish line.
Yeah, I mean it's key in this time of year to have a deep of bench as Indiana is, and the play really doesn't tail off. So
Mm-hmm.
credit to Indiana for getting a huge win
Mm-hmm.
in Game 3.
Yeah, and it's not to say that Oklahoma City played bad. They didn't. I mean, you had Jalen Williams put up 26 points, Chet Holmgren with a double-double of 20 points, 10 rebounds. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander put up 24 points, 8 rebounds, and then Lou Dort with 12 points, 4 rebounds. But yeah, just the balance of Indiana really allowed them to have that advantage. And obviously, being in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, you know how crazy Indiana fans go for basketball. So Indiana's 2 wins away from a NBA title, and Game 4 is going to be happening tomorrow night at 7:30. So why not start off your weekend well with some Iowa State basketball and see if the Pacers can go up 3-1 against the Oklahoma City Thunder before taking the series back to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a great weekend of basketball. So make sure to turn in. Not turn in, to tune in. Jeez, my language is getting popped up. But this is gonna be our first shameless plug of the show. Uh, please, if you guys like what you see and like the content that we produce, please like and subscribe and give your thoughts either on Apple Podcasts or or Spotify, and give us your thoughts. We would love the feedback. Hopefully, it's positive feedback, and that we've give you time to and give you our time, and we work really hard on this, so we enjoy giving you quality content.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you can be into now because if you join it or you'll be able to hear things from us before obviously the season coming up. So we're doing what we can to get through the dog days of summer. I mean, it's a little difficult to do, especially once the NBA season comes around because unfortunately we don't have college baseball. That's one thing I kind of wish we had. But
Yeah,
I mean, if you're into baseball, the College Baseball World Series isn't taking place in Omaha, and we're not too far out, so maybe you could take the drive over to Omaha, enjoy some college baseball, and Well, I guess that kind of makes you wish that Iowa State had baseball, but we digress. Obviously, we're counting down the days to Cyclone football. So if you haven't started preparing for football season, you haven't prepared tailgates and getting all your Cyclone gear, get that now before everybody starts rushing to the sports stores and all that.
Do it now. And then also just another thing to update everybody on. We are going to be getting some merch made. So that's a new development coming out. I'm working with some uh, publicators and really publishers to get these things done. So I will let you know when merch store will be set up. So we're making hats and shirts made, as well as probably some like maybe some bumper stickers, maybe some keychains, and probably some koozies right before tailgating season starts. So stay tuned for that.
Perfect. All
So
right.
with the yeah, yes. Anything you wanted to add, Cody?
No, not at all. I mean, I wouldn't be hopefully to see the some of those koozies on nice beers when we go tailgating this season. So it'll be really cool.
We have a cool logo, guys. So having that on your ice cold beer, it looked nice. And cheering on your clones and believing in Iowa State, of course. Um,
Hmm.
so with that, we're gonna transition into talking about the men and women's schedule breakdown. We don't know the exact schedule; that won't come out until probably until football season. But we do have an idea of who the
Hmm.
men and women will be facing. Let's share your screen code and let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's start with men's basketball here. If you take a look here, Iowa State. So I believe we're going to 18 conference games this time around because I remember last year we did 20 conference games, but looks like we reduced it down to 18.
Yeah, I mean
Mhm.
that was a good move. 20 games
Yeah,
is way too much, and like as you saw last year, it was not good for Iowa State. We got ran down, and by the
yeah.
time we got to the second round, it was just a tired team.
And I mean, it probably I mean, it wasn't just us, but like you saw a lot of other teams like kind of go through that. I mean, you had the exceptions, of course, with Houston. Houston's just a different beast, but yeah, I think a lot of teams in the Big 12 were definitely worn out by the 20 game conference schedule. So going back to 18 is like I think it's a good move. So that way, like it fit more like what a lot of like these teams in the previous years were used to. But anyways, with that out of the way, just gonna take a look here. If you're watching our stream, you can see our screen. But if you're listening on Apple Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, these are the Big 12 opponents for the 2025-26 conference season for your Iowa State Cyclones. So your only games are going to be against Arizona State, Colorado, Houston, UCF, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. What do you think about that home only slate?
Well, I mean, I'm glad that that we are playing Houston at home. I really sort of wish that Houston was the a home and away
Home and
game.
away. Yeah, and we'll get to the home and away slate a little later. But yeah, it definitely would have been nice. So I think Iowa State and Houston are two of the top like 4 or 5 teams in the Big 12, and it would have been really nice to see like them play against each other, like playing against each other on their home courts, because we saw that kind of happen when Houston first joined the Big 12. It was really cool. Like that was a really cool thing for both teams. And obviously, last year, I think it would have really benefited the league if Iowa State and Houston played each other like on each other's respective home courts. Because you saw how Iowa State competed against Houston in the Fertitta Center. Imagine bringing the level of those two teams from last year to Hilton Coliseum. That would have been such a marquee home game
And I mean, we were literally a round away from in the Big 12 tournament from seeing Iowa State Houston again.
for
So
sure.
it's sentimental when both those two teams play. I'm
Yeah.
also excited to see Tech playing Tech at home. That's going to be a highly touted game between the Red Raiders and the Cyclones.
Yeah, I think in Grant McCaslin, like obviously watched the game last year. That was a crazy game for Iowa State because you talk about Texas Tech getting out to that 14, 15 point lead, but Iowa State able to slowly chip away at the lead and eventually were able to win that game in overtime. But Iowa State, Texas Tech, they tend to play like pretty well whenever they match against each other. I like this matchup for Iowa State. I think like Grant McCaslin has things going very well down in Lubbock, so it's really cool to see. And then West Virginia. Oh man, I really wish this would have been like with the with the Darian and Tucker DeVries, but unfortunately, this doesn't seem to be the case. But I think the home like only slate, Houston and Texas Tech does carry this because it's not like the rest of the home slate only slate is bad. It's just Houston and Texas Tech that those two games are just above like the rest of the home only slate. But no need to worry about but I mean still a good home slate for Iowa State. So I think looking at this, Iowa State realistically should be able to take care of the home only games. Like even like Houston, Texas Tech give us a challenge. I think Hilton Magic and the fans of at Iowa State. I think it's just a very unique atmosphere, and it's very difficult for teams to win in that building. So very excited for this home only slate.
Same. What was our record last year in home games?
I believe our only losses at home, I don't remember the exact wins, but our only losses at home were to Kansas State and BYU. I think those were the only two times we lost that. And I mean, the Kansas State thing, that was in the middle of Kansas State on that, like those weeks where they were just hot, they were beating everybody. And then BYU, that was like, I couldn't even be mad about that game because that was such a really fun game. It went so late as well, so it was just so tiring to like be there. It's definitely one where I did wish we win that game, but honestly, something about Iowa State and BYU playing each other, it brings on edge in both teams.
Yeah, and with talking about BYU, let's get into this away slate. So we have Arizona on the road. You know what happened in that game last year? We have BYU at that's dad is at the Marriott Center.
Oh boy.
We have Cincinnati on the road, which is always a tough game to play at Cincinnati. Uh, we have uh, we have K State, the Octagon of Doom, even though we killed them last year. There, TCU was always a tough game, and then we also have Utah on the road, and Utah should be a better team. What do you
Oh,
think
for
about
sure.
this?
Yeah, I think this away slate is solid. Obviously, playing at the Marriott Center, never fun to play in. But that's one atmosphere that's like really cool to see. I mean, last time we visited there, it didn't go great for us. But I mean, the BYU fans, I think a lot of them are still going to remember Melvin Edge flipping them off as he was on the bench. That's still the image that forever lives in my head. So I'm pretty sure some older BYU fans still going to remember Melvin Edge flipping off the student section. You mentioned Arizona. Yeah, obviously, the infamous Caleb Love 60-foot plus 3-point heave, and that sparked a whole debate about whether to foul up three or not. And I mean, that debate's like it's a whole other thing. So not really like if we were to dive into that debate right now, I think we'd be on here for way too long. So we won't even talk. We'll save that for discussion for another day. But I mentioned the rest of the away only slate. Cincinnati, tough atmosphere, but we did beat Cincinnati. It was in their arena. Utah, that's gonna be an interesting road trip. I'm really interested to see how that goes. TCU, definitely a tough atmosphere. I still remember, was it Gabe Kalsher hitting that winner a few years ago, and that was kind of crazy. And then at TCU is when we discovered how much of an impact Curtis Jones, Keyshawn Gilbert had. Because if you remember, Tame Lissy was out for that game, and we found out how big of an impact both Cujo and Keyshawn had on the team. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want that situation happening. I hope we don't have injuries again, but maybe we can find a diamond in the rough at TCU. I don't know. And then,
Yeah,
yep.
something about playing at TCU, Cody. Sorry to interrupt. It's something that about playing at TCU that somebody emerges. Maybe Jamarian
Hmm.
Bateman or one of these freshmen will emerge as a star.
Yeah, that's true. And then finally, we get to the Farmageddon. Now, this is what I do wish was one of those like home and aways because nothing is more like my blood is still boiling from the when Kansas State visited Iowa State and beat the crap out of us, and it was just like I don't know. That day was just I don't know what it was like. I don't know whether it was Iowa State mentally drained from Arizona, Kansas State coming out with a fury. Obviously, they had the chip on their shoulder. I mean, that was just something that like, and obviously Iowa State did get vengeance eventually, beating the tar out of Kansas State on Kansas State Senior Day. But something just doesn't sit right with me. The fact that like, Kansas State came into our building and beat the tar out of us, and it's just I really wish we got another home game with them, so that way we can beat the tar out of them and get our win back.
I don't know. I'm gonna rant real quick. Tyler's rant right here.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. I know like that the Big 12 conference wants everybody to play everybody, but like Iowa State, there's no reason that why we shouldn't at least be playing Kansas and Kansas State every single year, twice a year. Like there's no reason why we can't only play KU, but we can't play K State. Like we literally have one of the longest running rivalries continued in in college sports right now, and they're basically trying to take that away. I am not really a big fan of the scheduling. That's the end of my rant. But like, I'm not a big fan of the schedule at all.
Yeah. It's one weird thing. It's like for a conference that doesn't have like as many like grown in rivals as like you like say the SEC or the Big Ten do. It's kind of odd that we're trying to get rid of Farmageddon when that's like one of the like most known rivalries
Right.
within the conference, and you can tell by the two fan bases they generally like a lot of Kansas State fans hate Iowa State fans. A lot of Iowa State and vice versa. You could tell based on the way they play on the field. I mean, all you have to do is go on Twitter when it comes to Farmageddon week, and you just see each fan base ripping each other's a new one. But it's kind of disappointing. But whatever. I guess it's gonna be fun going into Kansas State's building and running up the running up the scoreboard there. I guess.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to put B to A to them again and at the Octagon of Gloom. So
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun to see again.
and then you just know somewhere Keyshawn Gilbert's is gonna have belt in hand as well.
Oh, that was great.
I still love the
What a
fact he
game, man.
co-tweeted after the game. Co-tweeted me. I was like, yes. That was such a hilarious clip. I was like, no way. It's like that was great, but yeah. But now we get to the home and away games for the men's teams. The big one that stands out, obviously, is Kansas. Now,
Yeah.
that's the one that is seven. Obviously, has to be protected. There's no there. You can't put Iowa State, Kansas as a home only or an away only game for either team. That this has to be one of those cases where it's home and away because Allen Fieldhouse and Hilton Coliseums are two of the best college basketball arenas in the country. No doubt about it, because both fan bases are very passionate about their basketball teams.
Yeah, man. I just should be something. This is a game that should be played twice a year, every year. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense why they chose KU because both of these arenas go insane when either team is in town, and
Yeah,
it started to become a nice little rivalry. Even though KU fans don't like to acknowledge that.
yeah,
Like for obviously most of history they killed us, but like I'll say within the last 10 to 15 years, Iowa
yeah.
State has been pretty
I
competitive.
Yeah, historically, no, Kansas has killed us. There's no doubt about it. But I say if you were to look at it from a like 10 to 15 year lens, like if you were to like, because I think last 10, 15 years is such a different era of basketball.
Right.
Like the Kansas of old, that was a really different era of basketball because that was not when you had things like NIL, when you had like a recruiting and things like that. And now you have a place where it's like much more competitive. You do start seeing like more of these things. So I'd say it's one of those rivalries that like Iowa State fans have held in their hearts, and now it's like held to them. But I think more people are starting to realize, just even the casual fans, how much of a rivalry Iowa State Kansas is because those two teams are always fielding competitive basketball teams, and those two games tend to be entertaining. I mean, you had like Iowa State, they had to expand the student section for because that game was technically over winter break, but because everybody, a lot of students came back early to go see the Kansas game, and obviously that was a well done move by Iowa State marketing because they realized how much of a demand that game would be. So, and I think Kansas might have done the same thing on. I think they would probably do the same thing because Iowa State's a marquee opponent. So, very glad to see that this is a home and away series.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so very very glad. Um, Baylor is going to be an interesting matchup to me because for the first time we have no idea what Baylor's going to be because Baylor lost their entire team to the transfer portal. I don't think I have ever seen that before.
Yeah, that is up. I've never seen just the whole entire team, especially like on this like to Baylor, to just have
Yeah,
everybody enter the portal. Like that was just a wild, like just a wild scene when the entirety of Baylor's roster hit the transfer portal. So I don't know how Baylor is, and I'm kind of just like unfortunately like as much as I like playing Baylor, I don't think this one has like as high of stakes to be like one of those home and aways as say a Kansas State and Arizona,
right,
a Houston, or I would even argue Texas Tech.
right, and I really wanted to play K State because I mean now they got PJ Haggerty in the transfer portal, and it's going to be a good matchup
Oh,
in Manhattan. But
yeah,
maybe we'll have to just maybe hope for a second matchup with them in Kansas City.
yeah. I mean, which basically people are claiming is Iowa State's second home. It's like it's crazy how many people would claim that Kansas City is just a second home for Iowa State. I'm like, what? You have two Kansas schools literally right down the road.
It's
What are you talking?
no KU and K State fans love telling us that it's our vacation spot. I was like, well,
Hey, they got good barbecue. What can I
they
say?
have good barbecue. I'm also more well traveled than Kansas City. I just come for basketball. This ain't my vacation, bro. But
We make it our vacation. Like we
right,
turned Kansas City to a vacation spot.
might as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
but and then we have Oklahoma State, and this is another team who I really have no idea about. We would probably have to have someone from Oklahoma State come on and tell us about them when it comes to basketball season. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is another team I have no idea about.
Yeah. I'm curious to see because I think they did definitely have like one of those like it had a disappointing year last year and they really didn't do much in the Big 12. I mean, obviously they beat us, so that's a lot to say. But I mean, what am I? I haven't heard anything crazy out of Oklahoma State. And if you were to tell me, like, what was it, 10 years ago that this would have been a home and away series, I'd be like, absolutely.
Oh
Because
yeah,
Oklahoma State at that time period was like one of the like best like big teams in the Big 12. I mean, obviously Marcus Smart is the first name I think of when it comes to Oklahoma State basketball in recent times. And I still will sometimes see the clip of like them announcing Marcus Smart at Holden Coliseum, and you just see the entire student section flop.
that was peak. That was peak. Cyclone Alley there.
Yeah, man. If they like, I know some. I don't know how like possibly it how possibly engineering wise, but imagine if they do move like the student section currently back to where it was like it was 10 years ago. But I'm pretty sure certain logistics. But I digress. So taking a look at this here, what do you think would be a realistic conference record for the men's team?
Um. Well, we first the question is what are you going to get out of the young players? Because now in this new era of the 20.5 million settlement, a lot of young players are going to be playing in on these teams now in football, basketball. So what
Right.
contributions are you going to be getting out of these freshmen? Are you going to put them in the fire? Um, in this first tournament that we're gonna have, this non-con tournament that we're gonna have, because I think if they're gonna put we're gonna we might you might as well put their feet in the fire there, have them have tough minutes against Purdue and against Iowa, so that by the time you get to conference play, you're up and running, and
Yeah.
then like how like I think also is how is Milan gonna come out? I think Milan. I'd said like in our like concluding podcast for the basketball season that Milan's gonna have to be a player where he's gonna have to fully become a complete player, not just a guy looking for shots. I think he will. I think we saw a development of that later on in the season where he can get buckets, and then that first game against who do we play in the first game of the tournament?
Lipscomb.
Lipscomb. Yeah, against Lipscomb in the tournament. So he's capable of doing that. And then another level of Joshua Jefferson, Taman
Mhm.
being fully healthy now.
Yeah.
So
And then
I
and then contributions from like Nate Heisey because you saw late
yeah,
he came on late because I mean yeah obviously he had a very sluggish like start to conference play where he wasn't able to really hit a shot but he hit a few shots got his confidence and he's just like he's a veteran he's a seasoned veteran he's like going into sixth year so he knows what it takes to really go through like some of these like lumps in your play. So he's got that veteran experience to really teach the young guys, and obviously Jefferson, Milan, and Taman, which is basically like our core. They have all that experience now because they've been to tournaments. They know what it takes to win in the Big 12, and I think that's going to bode well for the freshmen. And obviously, you're being coached under TJ, like you know what you're signing up for when you play for TJ Altenberger, and it's going to come down to are the freshmen able to meet like set expectations? And I think the trust is there between the players and the coaches. It comes down to can they like actually execute it. And I think that was one of the criticisms I knew people had was like, why isn't TJ playing the young guys? But then you also see like TJ put the guys out there that he knows that can go out there and be the best option for the game. So I think it's just like it's a lot of like coaching chess, but I think if the freshmen do develop like we think they are, and they like become viable players, we might see them in the Players Era Festival, and then obviously going at Purdue and against Iowa.
Yeah, and then obviously the last thing is about these transfer pickups that we got. How are they going to come into the fold and gel with this team, like with Mason Williams and the guy we got from Utah Valley and
Dominic Nelson,
Blake
Buchanan,
and Blake Buchanan, yeah, and the guy
yeah,
from Indiana Fort Wayne, I think Purdue Fort Wayne, I think.
Eric Mulder, I believe.
Eric Mulder. I want to see how they mold into the roster and how they develop or how they come into the fold and like gel with this team. So I think that's going to be key. With that being said, like the original question you asked me, I think probably a reasonable expectation for this team I'll probably say somewhere between like 10 to 13 conference wins.
Yeah. Obviously, protect your home court. That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
Protect your home court. Obviously, Texas Tech, Houston, and Kansas are going to test you, no doubt. But to win in the Big 12, to be successful in the Big 12, you have to protect your home court. So I think, going here. And then I'd say somewhere in the 12 to 14, 15 win range in conference is 15 is definitely the ceiling. The floor is 12.
Okay, so you have a higher floor than I do. Okay.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to like because of the way like what we know, what we've seen Adam Momcilovic, Jefferson, Lipsy, and Heisey late, and how much they play, and obviously, but realistically, like the losses that I could see, are probably going to be all away because I expect us to protect home court, but the losses are probably like what a lot of people are going to say: BYU, Arizona, Kansas State.
I actually think we beat K State again. I think we lose. I think like they're gonna make the schedule where we play either Utah first or BYU first, and that's gonna be a weekend trip or whatever. One
Yeah.
Friday, and that one's gonna be on a Monday, and I think we lose both.
Oh, wait, both to Utah and BYU?
Mm-hmm. I think we lose both those games.
Okay. I mean, Utah did beat Kansas, but we obviously saw what Kansas's form was last year, so we have to take that into consideration. But transfer probably doesn't carry over, but we'll have to see how does Utah prepare for Iowa State.
Right.
All right. We're going to go, I guess we're going to look at the women's basketball team, if I can find them, because they also had their Big 12 schedule release here. So the home-only slate is going to consist of the Arizona schools, Baylor, UCF, Kansas, West Virginia. The away-only slate for the women is going to be BYU, Colorado, Houston, TCU, Texas Tech, Utah, and then the home and aways are Cincinnati, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State. Now, what I know about like women's team is they're returning a lot of like they're returning like obviously the duo of Audie Crooks and Addie Brown, so they should still be a very competitive, looks to be a top 15 team. But they did lose a couple of pieces to the transfer portal graduation. Obviously, you had Kelsey Jones, Lily Hansford enter the transfer portal out of Iowa State, and then you had the graduation of Emily Ryan as a player. But I did see over the summer that Emily Ryan will be back with the Cyclones as a graduate assistant. So I think that's going to be a very crucial piece for them. And then there were a couple pieces in the transfer portal for the women's team. Beatty, Evangelina Pollock, and the big one that I think a lot of people knew, Jada Williams coming over from Arizona.
So yeah, I mean, her playing her former team at home, I think that's going to be a boost
Yeah.
for her.
And I believe Jada Williams has a former connection with somebody on Iowa State.
Yeah,
I,
who?
I believe it was Addie. I believe it's Addie Brown that has a
Addie Brown,
connection
yeah.
to. Because I believe they were because they're from the same area, if I'm not mistaken. Or do they play
Yeah.
on the same like AAU team?
It was either they're from the same area or same or AAU team. One of those.
Kansas City, Missouri. So that's where Jada Williams is from. Let me see here. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see. Looks like Jada Williams did team up with Addie Brown at one point, I believe. Yeah, for AAU. So yeah, they've got that bit of a connection. So, and I mean, the social media presence that Jada Williams has, I mean, that's going to bring a lot of eyeballs to the Iowa State team. And the Iowa State women's team already has like a decent amount of eyeballs, consistently one of the top 10 teams in women's basketball attendance. And now, like obviously, with the star presence of Audie Crooks and Addie Brown, you're bringing in another piece of star power. So you're bringing a lot of eyeballs to the women's team. And they had that spotlight last year when they were ranked number 8 to start the year. Obviously, things didn't go the way I think the team wanted it to go. And I think a lot of things attributed, whether it be inconsistencies, injuries happened. So a lot of things happened in the last year, which was supposed to be a really good year, but wasn't the way. And that tends to happen in sports. You're expected like great things, and sometimes things don't work out. But I think the women's team has now learned from this because I mean, at that time we were only sophomores, so
Right.
they were still a relatively young team. So now they have that what it's like to be in a national spotlight the way they were, and now they have like learned from that. And obviously, Bill Fennelly like has been in the game for 30+ years, so he seen everything. Like he's seen many things in his coaching tenure. So I'm pretty sure he's taught the players like how to take that spotlight and use it not as a way to like to crumble, but like use it as like motivation, discipline to really build your game and become a better player. So I'm really curious to see where this women's team goes this year, and I think this slate is going to be pretty interesting because, yeah, I mentioned Arizona, the Arizona schools. Baylor's going to be really interesting. I do like that Baylor matchup going up against Nikki Collin. I remember the last game against Baylor was it during winter break. That was a really crazy game. I mean, there was barely anybody because it was in the middle of a blizzard, but still, that tends to be a fun game in Hilton. And then UCF at Kansas. Kansas is a solid team. I think they're going to do some solid things in the Big 12. And then West Virginia. I don't remember JJ Quinley still on the team. I don't think, no, she's graduated yet. But if she hasn't, then that would be a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, and then what are your thoughts on the away games? We have BYU, Houston, BYU, Colorado, Houston, TCU, Texas Tech, who was solid last year, and Utah.
I'm really interested to see how TCU is after like their historic season. I'm really serious to see how they are. Utah, I'm really excited to see how they do like when they travel to Utah. So a couple of pretty interesting games here on the away slate. You do have some competitiveness, and then you've got another family reunion at Texas Tech. Talked about it last season, but taking a look at the home and away slates, Oklahoma State once again is a home and away for the women's team, so both the men's and women's teams. I'm going to assume they're probably going to be in the same vicinity at the same time, so
Yeah.
I won't be surprised. They do like the double headers or whatever, so that wouldn't be surprising. Cincinnati, that'll be pretty interesting to see, and then Kansas State. Something about Iowa State playing Kansas State and us, like we've been a thorn in their side for the past couple of years. Even because I think last year they didn't have Ioka Lee, but we were still able to stick it to them on a senior day. And then it was 2 years ago where we stuck it to a highly ranked Kansas State team. So Iowa State has had Kansas State's number in the last couple of games.
We've had their number in everything in football, and men's basketball, and in
women's basketball. Yeah, so I think I think this is just going to be like, I think the women's team realistically. I mean, that Baylor game is going to be really interesting for them, and then the Kansas State game. But I'm trusting the fact that beating Kansas State the last couple of times they visited Hilton, so I'm trusting that. And Oklahoma State's actually interesting because they did have a pretty good year last year.
That is very true. So it's
Yeah,
going to be interesting to see how they develop as a team. So
Yeah.
so we'll see.
Yeah. I think looking at this here, I can see the range of whew, 11 to I see 11 to 13 wins. I see that. Just with the
That makes sense.
yeah, with just with
That's a
how
good one.
competitive the Big 12 is, I think they can anybody can beat anyone at any night. So yeah. And,
Very true.
yeah, I want to see like with their schedule. So I'm gonna stop sharing for the moment, but I'm gonna go take a look real quick. I gotta
Yeah.
see the like I don't know remember if like they've released their the women's team has released their non-con schedule, but if they have, I'm just gonna take a look and
I mean,
see.
I will say that the best thing about their non-con schedule is that it prepped them to have a better conference schedule because they just got absolutely murdered in their non-con schedule last year.
But I mean, that's the step up that I think a lot of people wanted to see. Like, I mean, that's
Oh
just
yeah,
putting
no, that's
yourself against the best,
yeah,
and I
no.
think
I'm
that
not
was
saying that's a
good for the long
slight.
term.
Yeah, it helps you for the long term when you play teams like that. It's the same thing with what Iowa State football that happened with Iowa State football in 2019, where they were playing on national TV. And unfortunately, they got embarrassed by Notre Dame. But you were playing teams like Notre Dame, playing teams with like high, you know, high prestige.
High market value,
Yeah.
if you
So and
will.
you're getting in front of TVs and that people can see your product. But yeah,
So yeah, I think both the men's and women's teams are once again going to have a like they're both they're just gonna have expectations. I think it's might be a little like lower just because of the way last year went. I think maybe the women's team last year might have had too many expectations. I think
yeah.
I yeah, I think honestly that top eight like the top 10 was crazy to see, but I think that might have been a bit too high because I don't think I like it was nice to see, but it was crazy they put us that high for a band of sophomore incoming sophomores. That was kind of crazy, but I mean,
I think they were taking a lot off of the game they had against Stanford in the tournament.
uh, oh
So
yeah, when they went toe to toe with Cam Brink, that stuff was crazy. How
yeah,
Iowa State was that like they were so like, and I mean they were competitive, I believe, against Iowa as well that year that year because the Cyhawk game was in yeah, it was in Hilton College. Wait,
it was
no,
in
no,
Holland
no.
Coliseum. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, that year when they okay, yeah, because like they were right up there with Caitlin Clark, Gabby Marshall, and like and those girls. So I mean, yeah, but we'll have to see.
we will have to see. So that's the men and women's schedule preview for you. As always, right now we are going to. I'm just going to share my screen and we're going to talk about our uh, very great sponsor, MyBookie.
That's right. Yep. My bookie. Still a lot of things going on here. Obviously, you have the NBA Finals, so Game 4 coming tomorrow. You've got the Stanley Cup playoffs going on. Baseball season is in full swing. Tennis is going on as well, and I think you've got some golf as well. I just saw, I think I saw an ad saying something about like John Cena. So I remember we did the there was WrestleMania. So who knows if
Oh
they do?
yeah,
Yeah, who knows if my bookie does something again for pro wrestling, like especially with SummerSlam coming up.
there probably is going to be something on there. We're going to take another look at college football again, since that's really the main thing that we've been talking about really for
Yeah,
the past few weeks.
yeah. So we've already explored, yeah, the Big 12. I'm curious to see what the other like conferences are looking like.
Wow, there it is. I can never, bro. I could never find. Uh, hold on. Well, so as you can see, odds are already out for the
Week
Farmageddon.
zero,
Yeah, over
week
under
zero.
49.5. Iowa State opens up as a 3 point underdog against the Wildcats. What are your thoughts?
Uh, I think honestly, I think given like the what Iowa State's returning versus what Kansas State's returning, and then what both teams lost, I think it makes sense that Kansas State's a slight favorite because I think maybe if you have more stock in Avery Johnson or Rock Beck, and then obviously Iowa State losing both Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll to the NFL draft, I think that's going to leave a lot more questions for Iowa State than it would for Kansas State. So I'm not surprised to see, and Kansas State is slated to be a top contender in the Big 12, so it's not surprising.
All right, so today we're going to take a look at the conference winners, at the odds for possible conference winners in the ACC today. We're going to go through every team once again, and then give our thoughts about who they think is going to win who we think is going to win the ACC. So
Yeah.
we have Clemson at plus 159, the Miami Hurricanes at plus 370, Louisville at plus 600, SMU at plus 660, Georgia Tech at plus 1225. Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels at plus 2100, FSU plus 2200, Duke at plus 3000, Virginia Tech at plus 3800, the Franimal and the Syracuse Orange plus 5200, NC State plus 5400, Pitt plus 8000, Cal plus 8500, Virginia plus 18,000, Boston College plus 18,000, Wake Forest plus 36,000, and to end it out, the Stanford Cardinal at plus 36,000. Now, what do you think about these top four teams and odds?
Hmm. Clemson, I mean, the reigning defending ACC champions. You still have Dabble Sweeney there, and I believe Kay Klubnik's still with the squad.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe they think,
Yep.
they could run it back. Miami, oh boy, Miami. Fun fact: the Miami Hurricanes, since joining the ACC, has never won the conference. I don't think they've even reached the conference championship game.
They haven't, dude. They haven't been dominant since they were in the Big East. So
That's crazy.
I mean, ever since they left and they went to the ACC in 2004, they have never been to a conference championship game, let alone never won a conference championship.
Jeez. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they could finally do it as long as Mario Cristobal doesn't f up again like he has the past couple of years. Oh God, I still the infamous Georgia Tech. Oh, that thing! Like not even as like not even trolling, but just as a genuine fan. I'm like, how are you a coach at this high of a level, and you still you do that? Literally, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Even a 7-year-old on Madden knows when you're up, when the other team has no timeouts. It's only 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and it's not fourth down. You kneel the football. You end the game. I don't know what. I still gotta understand what was going through Mario Cristobal's head in that game.
It's just like when he went for the field goal against he could have went for the kill shot against Syracuse, but then he kicked the field goal, and then Syracuse would have had to score a touchdown to tie it, but they went and drove down a touchdown to win that game. So yeah, some of the conservative play calls too. Um, I
I don't think
think
they were even conservative. Those are like they were just downright stupid.
right, downright stupid. I think SMU's odds are interesting because for most of that game, SMU was hanging in there with Clemson.
Yeah.
So I look for SMU to probably to have another good season. Louisville is another team that we should watch out for too. They have been excellent under Brom. So and they have a championship game appearance within the last few years. So it's going to be
hmm
interesting to see um, what they have.
Yeah, I think that's other big story is going to obviously be how does Bill Belichick do in his first year in North Carolina.
That will be the story of the ACC. Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, it's going to be that or the Carson Beck drama at Miami because Miami's always going to be the headlines for one reason or another.
Right.
And then
So yeah,
Florida State. Oh boy, do they respond from that horrible year they had?
as a Florida fan, I hope not. I like when they suck.
God, that was so fun watching rivalry week because I don't know what was in that rivalry week last year, but everybody that won on the road just decided to just to stick it to the home team and just try to plant their flags. That was crazy, and that's what I'm here
All those
for.
teams crashing out. Yeah. We watched it. We were cracking up of all them crashing out. Reminded me
Yeah.
of 2000 college football. I love it.
Yes. Now that's what rivalry week's for, people.
Exactly. Screw all the friendliness. Nah. So
Yep.
with that, we are going to end today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Believe in Iowa State podcast. A few shameless plugs before we leave. Um, as before, we are up and coming podcast, and we can be found on any of your favorite podcast providers. Mostly Apple Podcast and Spotify. We can be found on iHeartRadio and any other podcast provider. So please like and subscribe. Let us know what you think. Maybe give us some suggestions on what we should talk about. Maybe, especially in
Hmm.
this downtime of that. Hey, maybe you should put a poll up and tell us, hey, what do you guys want us to talk about? And also, and a few other things. We are a top 15 sports podcast in the state of Iowa, nominated by FeedSpot. FeedSpot did a poll. Right now, we're still holding at 13, between 13 and 14. The last time I checked. So thank you, FeedSpot, for that. Thank you, state of Iowa listeners, for all you do. We appreciate you guys. Um, and you can find me on Twitter at SideTie Guy. Right now, I'm really just talking about the me being excited about the White Sox bringing up their young players and the await me awaiting the start of Cowboys training camp.
Hmm.
And then you can find Cody on Twitter at Matt Kimball Impersonator. Matt or Cody, what are you talking about?
I've been mostly quiet, like obviously just but really just kind of been off like those time. But I've been posting some songs here and there. I was talking about the Pacers, and then just take out like see what's going on with Iowa State and doing what I can. But once like college, like all the college are up and running again, then I'll be way more active.
Yeah, we'll be knee deep into content, so look out for that. Come fall, we're gonna be going back to our normal scheduling where we'll have a preview show for you and a reaction show for you twice a week. Thank you guys for joining us. For Tyler Carter,
And for Cody Van Cielum,
this is the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.
go Cyclones!